Good morning. Welcome back to Fit Body Secrets, where my mission is to bring you guys inspiration, motivation, and some tips to help you guys on your fitness, your health, and your fat loss journey. I'm going to make sure I'm live on Instagram. I am there. Perfect. We're going to roll right into it because guess what? Coach Cheryl has a very busy morning schedule today. I am so blessed because you would think that this time of year, things in the nutrition companies or in the nutrition business would be slowing down, but they are busy, busy, busy. Whether it's behind the scenes stuff that we're working on as nutritionists, obviously, I think a lot of people think that the new year is this big influx of clients, and I actually don't get a whole bunch of new clients in January. And I actually prefer that. I like people to kind of start in February. I think giving you guys the month of January to just reset and then hopefully get people signing in February is more so what's important to me. But I've just honestly been talking to I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of you guys. And today it's kind of what sparked my conversation or my topic idea, not conversation, my conversations sparked my topic idea for today. By the way, just so you guys all know, I do all of my podcasts raw. So whenever I make stumbles on my words and stuff like that, don't get me wrong. There are times where I'm like, man, I should go back and edit this, but I don't. I don't have time for that kind of stuff. I am a one-woman show three-woman show. We do have two other assistants that work with me, but it's just, I don't have time to do all that stuff. I want you guys to know that everything I do is pretty much raw content. So I just had to say that as I was already stumbling on my words and kind of getting off on tangents, but we're going to rope it back in because I do have a busy day and I want to get to the point today. And I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of females, primarily over 35 in the CrossFit space. And it's such a hard place to be in because there's so much conflicting information out there. And it's like, oh, maybe I should be doing less intensity and doing more lower intensity activity and more strength training. In fact, I just had a call with one of my clients yesterday who was not doing the training that she wanted to do because she was thinking that it was going to tank her cortisol levels or make her feel worse. And I'm like, that's not the case. I want you guys to understand things. So anyways, I want to go over some of the fat loss mistakes that I see happening in CrossFit women as they are in that age of 35 plus. And I am now 40 years old. So I totally get where you're coming from, whether you're 35 and you're going into those ages where you're kind of where I'm at, where it's man, I don't want to have what's happened to so many of my clients happen to me and I'm being proactive. Or you're one of my clients that are in your 40s or 50s or beyond, and you're okay, we're bouncing back or we're getting through this phase of life. And I want to go over some things that I see happening that are sabotaging you and give you some bullet point things to be focusing on, especially if you are looking to reset in the new year. In fact, I think it might have been my last episode, I talked a lot about building a plan for the new year. So, things you could be doing now to set yourself up for a better plan in the new year. I didn't actually go over what to go over in the new year, but if you watch that episode, you know that in the new year, if you're looking to reset, all you should really be having to do is create a little calorie deficit if you were taking action on those things. But you also might be I'm going to put those things off until January, and that's okay too, because let me go off on another little tangent. It is December 16th, and let me tell you that I am in the place of feels of I don't really feel motivated to make progress right now. I don't really feel motivated to do a lot of things. It's truly just maintaining, and I'm totally okay with that. I think that it's the time of year where we can all just chill a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to sabotage yourself, but just chill out a little bit and allow your body to recover and enjoy the last 2 weeks of the year, knowing that we're going into a new year. And it's not about this whole foo-foo, that life changes suddenly in January. It's just giving yourself an opportunity to take the time for a little bit of a break. You should be taking it other times during the year, but now's a good time for that too. So we're going to get right into it. Like I said, as I've already derailed myself for the last 5 minutes, just talking. And by the way, if you don't like a lot of my rambling, I'm sorry. I like to ramble. I'm going to just pop over onto Instagram as well. Instagram, if you guys are on here and you guys have specific questions, again, as always, just feel free to pop them in the chat. If you don't stay on for the whole thing, obviously I might not get to your question until the end. So you can always watch the replay, but I do check those questions as I'm going throughout the podcast. So let's get rolling on today's topic, which is fat loss mistakes I see most of my CrossFit women over 35 making, and they don't even realize it. Now, this can also be relative to some men as well. but I just find it more common in the female world. And we also have a few other wonderful things to be dealing with that men don't have to deal with, like periods and hormones and yada, yada, yada. So I want to start by saying that most women who come to me are not lacking any kind of knowledge. In fact, most of them know too much and they don't know how to apply it or what is relative to them. There is so much information out there that it can be very difficult to actually know what you should be focusing on and what out there is actually effective. You can have one person telling you that you're under eating, and then the other person's like, you're eating too many carbs. And one person telling you that you should be getting your fiber, and then another person telling you that vegetables are bad for you. So there's just so many things out there. And my main focus as a nutritionist is to show you how to sift through all of the garbage and know how to build a sustainable plan, one that is built off of science. There's no bias towards any specific thing. Everything I teach is based off of physiology, of how the body works and how it works as we age and all of that stuff. So you are likely not lacking knowledge. You likely have too much knowledge and it feels overwhelming knowing what you should be focusing on. You are literally very disciplined. So most CrossFit women are not strangers to hard work. You go to CrossFit, it's hard. Like, why do most people not do CrossFit? It's not because they can't do CrossFit. It's because they don't want to push themselves that hard, right? You push yourself every day. You look at the workout, you're like, oh my gosh, it's burpees and thrusters. It's going to be a day that I'm in the pain cave. And you show up and you do the work. So it's not that you're lacking the desire to work hard. You're not lacking discipline. You do show up to the gym. You're probably very consistent at the gym. You don't rely on motivation. You just show up no matter how you're feeling, but you don't have a way to apply any of that stuff to your nutrition because you don't have the plan to follow. Like with CrossFit, the plan is built in place. It's a methodology. You follow it. Maybe you might, add in some accessory work. You figure out where the holes are. And that is how you should be approaching your nutrition. You have a base program, and then you have things that might be more specific to your needs. So let's go into some of these mistakes that I see happening all of the time with CrossFit women, especially over 35. And number one is a big one. Chronic underfueling disguised as locked in or dialed in, okay? It's, I'm ready to get back on track with my macros. And it's Monday starts and it's like 15 to 1600 calories, 150 grams of carbs, hitting your protein. And you're like eating these like cookie cutter meals. And then like, that just doesn't go really well. After a couple of days, that desire to feel excited about those meals fizzles out and little random bites come in. And then the weekend comes and you're like, I need a break. Or you're just skipping meals. Like you have become so desensitized to your body's own hunger and fullness cues. You don't wake up hungry anymore. You've literally dulled that signal. You go all day. You don't eat. You're skipping meals because you're so busy. You're wearing your productivity as a badge of honor when it's really just self-sabotage. You're only ever tracking your food when you're dieting, going back into that first scenario. And it's all of this stuff is leading to inconsistencies in your nutrition. So you're underfueling on a consistent basis, even though you might be overeating some days. Like you might have some random high calorie days that are driven by maybe a social engagement or cravings, but it just leaves this constant like guilt and like I'm out of control and then I've got to dial things back in. And the only way you know how to dial things back in is by pulling back and underfueling. And that seems to be your method for like getting control over your body. And what happens is it backfires, especially after 35. Okay. When you have low energy available in those periods of time when you're trying to underfuel yourself to get things back under control, you're suppressing thyroid output. Over time, that does cause thyroid issues. With CrossFit being a high intensity training program and you're constantly restricting yourself carbohydrates are what fuel high intensity training, glycolytic work. And that means that your cortisol levels stay elevated. It's why oftentimes, even when you are dieting, you still feel puffy and inflamed and bloated. And the other thing that happens is your muscle starts to break down and then water retention starts to mask your fat loss. So like all of these things start happening when you're chronically under eating. You will see changes in like your mood and your motivation. You're probably still showing up and going through the motions, but it probably doesn't feel as good. You're really just going to the gym at that point because it's part of your routine, and it does give you a little bit of a feeling of satisfaction, but you're not getting the results that you're looking for from the gym. Okay. So the main thing here is that you got to get out of this. I've got to be in a calorie deficit, and under fueling is the only thing you know. You've got to get out of that and learn how to actually work with your body. Constantly fighting your body is not discipline. Your body is going to react to that. Okay. So under fueling is number one. Number two, this is another big one. And I'll be honest, in my earlier ages of CrossFit, when I was in my 20s, I used to do this and I could get away with it for quite a while. Treating CrossFit like it's always meant to be a cardio-based program. Like I would see a strength day as like, I need a Metcon. I need to have that like conditioning piece, because if I didn't get that, like I, for one, wasn't getting the dopamine hit, but I wasn't burning enough calories. And then I would feel guilty for eating as much food. It's this constant like checks and balances we have in our head. You know, you use workouts and you're thinking about the calories burned in your workouts. And that's not really what's the point of CrossFit. You know, CrossFit was not designed to be like, hey, we're going to go burn calories for an hour so that you can like feel successful about burning calories. This is where I have opinions on programs like Orange Theory that are like promoting calorie expenditure in workouts. Like, what is that really teaching people? That's like teaching people that if you work really hard to make money, that your measure of progress and success is how much you can spend every single day. Like that just doesn't make any logical sense. Okay. So I see this when you're also trying to do too much volume. You know, you're rushing through your strength work and adding in the Metcons, or saving it for the Metcons and not putting enough effort into the strength work. I'm going to take it a little easier here because that's where I got to push. And that normally just comes from not understanding, you know, what the purpose of CrossFit is, which is meant to be a strength and conditioning program. And you have to know that the strength piece is a big piece of it. So the other thing I think is like, if you're always focusing on the cardio aspect of it, and you're always trying to get that like high feeling you get after training the intensity piece, you're missing out on sometimes the recovery. And if you're always doing that, that was also not what CrossFit was designed to do. In fact, if you look back to the early days of CrossFit, you will notice that every day wasn't high intensity. There might have been like a 60-minute, like working through, you know, you're going to run and then you're going to do some like pull-ups, and then like you're trying to accumulate as many pull-ups as you can in an hour. Maybe there was some like random stuff, maybe some farmer's carries. Maybe some days it was just strength. It was just squatting, but it shouldn't be about high intensity every single day. That's the sweet spot for fitness, but you don't need to do that every single day. And a lot of people are doing too much of it. All right. So this hurts because honestly, I see this a lot, is like when you turn 35, really at 40, 35 to 40, it becomes a lot harder for you to build muscle and maintain muscle. And if you're constantly doing the high intensity stuff and not putting in enough work on the strength stuff, it's making it much harder for you to build muscle and making you more prone to muscle loss. You know, you need to be using your training time effectively to build muscle tissue. And if you're constantly doing extra Metcons and then you're under eating, you're also putting yourself at more risk for muscle loss, because most women spend entirely too much time in a deficit and not enough time eating at maintenance. And it's why they never actually learn how to maintain their weight, and they are just slowly eating away at their muscle tissue over time. Everything that you work so hard to build in your 20s and 30s is going down the drain because you're trying to control your body by eating too little in your 30s and 40s. And that's what I'm here to help you guys with. All right. So the other thing here is if you're always doing the constant cardio, your central nervous system is constantly taking a hit, and you're keeping yourself in this constant sympathetic nervous system state, which means you're more fight and flight, which means your body is going to be releasing more cortisol. And that's going to cause more inflammation. It's going to make you look softer, puffier, and it's going to make your digestion get off and all of that kinds of stuff. So your main goal with CrossFit is getting the right effective dose. All right. So like a CrossFit class a day is enough training. Does that mean it's enough movement? We can talk more about that as we're going on. I didn't actually write this one down here, but I think I'm going to. Actually, I did write it down. I see where I'm going to plug it. All right. But you're training an hour to 90 minutes a day if you want to be more competitive, and maybe you're putting in a little extra on strength and skill. or maybe you need a little bit more warm up and cool down, which we all could use. It should not be like cardio every single day. If it is, you're going to end up looking like that. So you want to have, strength work built in as your program. All right. Number 3, another big one here. We are all so desensitized, and I already said this in the first one, to our body's cues and constantly judging them. In fact, I know because I struggled with this. I would go through periods of time where I was following a restrictive diet, and then I would have a day where I'm like having some food that I normally wouldn't have, and it would spiral me into like, oh my God, this food is so good. I want to have so much of it. And I would binge, and I felt like I had no control. And then I would feel so like guilty for that. And I was just under eating. I wasn't eating enough on a regular basis. And I wasn't incorporating enough flexibility in my diet. So I felt like that was the only time that I could have those foods. And it wasn't me that was the problem. It was my strategy. And when I changed my strategy, I added foods back in. I added more calories in. That went away and I didn't have to judge myself. But a lot of you guys are judging yourself. You're judging those cues that your body is giving you. So one of the things I see is like, it's hard because, most of you guys take CrossFit classes and you might be having like a shoulder thing going on, or your back's not feeling great. And you see the workout of the day and it's like one of your favorite movements, and it's like pull-ups or something like that. And you're like, oh, my shoulders don't feel great. You're like, I'm going to push through. I'm going to push through, rather than being like, okay, my shoulder's telling me something today. I should probably scale back and get it feeling better before pushing through. And you feel like that is failure. Like you pulling back is you regressing, whereas it might have been the thing that allows you to progress. And you and I both know that every time you do that, it usually goes the wrong way. I know that myself. Okay. So it's not a failure if you need to scale back. In fact, if you're like feeling like a little bit beat up and taking a week where you're like, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to move with a little bit more or less intensity and more mechanical focus, then that's a good thing for your body. Some people may have had periods of time where maybe they were injured, maybe they had time off. A lot of women in their 30s having children, coming back, and there's a lot of expectations. And then the burnout that happens, and you kind of want to come back and get into it, and you just go right back full throttle and you don't ease back into things. And that becomes too much stress too quickly. So what happens is your body just starts to break down. And if you guys aren't listening to those things, it's really hard for you to be successful in the gym. And then on the nutrition side of things, if you're somebody that you're, obviously maybe if you've had some time off or you're feeling a little off, or maybe you're just trying to get into CrossFit, and you're not listening to the hunger cues that your body's giving you. I get this a lot from women that are starting CrossFit in their 30s and they have been doing another kind of training. And they're like, all of a sudden, like my appetite is crazy and I don't know what to do. And it feels like the more that they try and control it, the louder the cues get. Okay. So rather than judging your appetite and judging yourself for being hungry, which is going back to the external cues, you have to learn how to interpret it and how to feed it. Okay. So there is a skill that needs to be learned in understanding like true hunger versus like, I'm just like, dealing with a stress trigger or a craving. And even those cravings can be signaling things to you. So learning how to read your body's cues, not always judging them or fighting them, is really, really important. And it's not an easy thing. It is actually a learned skill, because as adults, we have been exposed to so many things that tell us what we should or shouldn't be doing. We're no longer an infant growing, right? An infant growing is like, I'm crying because I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm sleeping because I'm tired. Like we don't do that anymore because like, no, we can't sleep because we have to work, and we can't eat because we're trying to lose weight. It's this constant like outside validation of what we should be doing. So your body isn't the problem. It's understanding your feedback that is the problem. All right. Number 4, and this is one that is going to get a lot of people. I feel like every time I get into this, I feel like I am about to have to defend myself, because there is this whole group of people that are like, I don't want to be tracking anything. It's like so unintuitive and unnatural. I'm too busy and it's just too much for me. Yet they're complaining about everything going on in their body and have no idea what's going on. Okay. So you have got to be knowing your numbers. I'm actually skipping ahead a little bit, but that's okay. I'm skipping ahead on this one. I have to go back to number 4. I was getting off on a tangent because this is the one that really gets me up, is not knowing your numbers, like not knowing how much you're eating, how much you're sleeping, how much you're moving throughout the day. This isn't about what you should be doing, because that's what most people interpret as. If I'm tracking my food, I should be hitting my macros. If I'm tracking my steps, I should be hitting 10,000 steps a day. If I'm tracking my sleep, I should be getting 8 hours of sleep a night. You're thinking about what you should be doing rather than like, what are you currently doing? You've got to know your numbers. And then you've got to know what you need when you feel your best, and knowing how to try and find the balance between knowing that every day is not going to be that perfect. I did just skip ahead a little bit, so I'm going to save more on this one. But you've got to know your numbers. You've got to know what your body is currently getting and how we can tweak those things. That's the most important thing you can do. In fact, even lab work. When I have a woman come to me like, my hormones are off, I'm like, have you had labs? No, but I can tell. Well, how do you know, right? Like, how do you know? You know something's not right, but what isn't right? You don't know what's not right. And until you get labs, you won't know what's not right, okay? So I'm going to go back to that one because I kind of skipped ahead, because that one gets me really gets me a little riled up, because I think that there's so much to be said about data, and I'm going to talk more about that. All right, so next one. We'll call this one number 5, since I detoured to number 4. Not being intentional with your nutrition structure and timing, okay? So I get this all the time. I'm eating healthy. I don't know what's going on. And they're not eating enough of the right things, and they're eating too much of the wrong things. There is nothing wrong with avocado and eggs and nuts and seeds and bacon and all that stuff. But guess what? A lot of women are eating a lot of that and not getting enough fiber because they're not getting enough whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Okay, eating healthy is not enough. All right, an apple is healthy. If all I was eating was apples all day, would I be getting enough protein, amino acids? No. Could I still get enough calories? Yeah, but probably not enough nutrients, right? So eating healthy is not enough. You've got to have more strategy. No consistency with meal timing, literally winging it every single day and thinking that that's like going back to the badge of honor thing. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. I got through today. I didn't eat anything all day. Like, what is that? Like, that's not something to be proud of. It does not take very long to, shovel some food in. I'm not telling you to go scarf down a, huge bowl of salad while you're in the middle of a work meeting, but man, taking 2 minutes to just eat something. In fact, I made a post about my stories today about protein bars. That's where maybe having a protein bar might be the best case scenario for you. It's a filler right then and there. But not having any consistency in your day. In fact, what you should really be looking at is, most of you guys, even when you have inconsistent schedules, have a very inconsistent schedule consistently, or you have a consistent schedule, and it's learning how to figure out when the ideal opportunities are for you to be taking in nutrients, and learning when your body is craving things the most. And for most of you guys, first thing in the morning, before you leave the house, eat something. When you get home from work, eat something. Even if you're busy all day, like making sure that you're having like maybe 2 or 3 small meals is all you need to have, and making those a little bit easier for you to digest, things that don't take a long time to eat. I think that another thing is like protein and carbs should be the base of every single meal, yet they get treated as like optional. Like they should be the base, and they end up just becoming like, okay, I'm going to focus on protein. And it's like, well, no, you should be building balanced meals, and those should be a part of it, right? So you need to make sure that you're getting in enough nutrients and consistently throughout the day. If you're not getting in enough nutrients consistently throughout the day, a couple of things happen. Number one, muscle protein synthesis is blunted. Your body does like to have a steady flow of amino acids going through the bloodstream. And while it's a myth that you have to consume, or that you can't consume more than like 30 grams of protein in a sitting, but there is something to be said about the absorption of protein is a lot easier when it's broken down throughout the day. And that goes for all nutrients, not just protein. Think of it like this. If I throw like a huge, big trunk of oak tree in a little wood chopper, it's going to clog it, right? But if I instead break it up into little pieces and then put it in, it'll digest that wood a lot easier. It's the same thing with your body, okay? And then it can also affect your training output if your fuel timing isn't right. Either eating too much before your training, not enough before your training, that's going to impact things. All right. So you want to think about this not being as like this rigid plan, or that you have to be so obsessed with like your meal timing, but like understanding it should be intentional and supportive for your lifestyle and your goals. Okay. So even if you're eating healthy, you could be eating all the healthy things. If you're not taking these things into consideration, you are going to be in a situation where fat loss becomes a lot harder for you. And I mean, you guys can all tell me that I'm wrong, because if you're reading all of these things and you're getting great results, by all means, good for you. But for most women, these are the things that are holding them back from actually seeing results. And maybe it's not all of these things. Maybe it's one or two of these things. All right. Going back to the one I said before, which is just a piece of this one. I know I mentioned not knowing your numbers. All right. But this is a big one. A lot of women over 35 in the CrossFit space are focusing on the small marbles rather than the big marbles, stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. And here are the small marbles or the pennies that women are picking up, trying to figure out how to balance their hormones. What should I be taking to balance my hormones? How can I balance my hormones? You cannot balance your hormones. Your hormones are never going to be balanced. They're always fluctuating. It's kind of like what I'm envisioning is, I'm not sure if you guys can remember those old decorative things where it was like this like water and like plastic, and it would like kind of wave, and there was like often like different colors. That's kind of how your hormones are. I gotta find one of those. Your body is constantly flowing, especially if you're a female. Your hormones twice a month are going to surge, right? Like that's part of being a female. But a lot of people are addressing their hormones with HRT, and a lot of coaches are now pushing different peptides and hormone therapy and different companies and functional medicine. Like, get on this HRT without addressing the nutrition changes first, and recognizing that you just pumping your body with more hormones might not be the best thing, because you can't control how your body is going to react to those hormones. And if you're still producing them, you're going to have times of the month where maybe they're even higher than they should be. Women see a lot of weight spikes, all kinds of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that hormone replacement therapy is a bad thing, because for some women, it can be a game changer as they're going through menopause, like in terms of sleep quality, in terms of quality of life, but you need to be making the nutrition changes. All right. We don't even need to talk about the alcohol. Okay. Another one that people focus on are things like strategies like, maybe I should cut out sugar, and maybe I should, that's a big one, as I shouldn't be eating as much sugar to control my insulin levels. Sugar is not what controls your insulin levels. Okay. So stress, getting enough strength training in, keeping yourself insulin sensitive by getting enough movement throughout the day, and controlling overall calories. Now, if all of your carbs are coming from sugar, you are likely missing nutrients from things like fiber and the foods that your body should be getting to get more of those complex carbs, which have things like B vitamins and all other kinds of things, and iron. If you're only getting sugary carbs, that's not going to help you. All right. So, but you don't need to focus on cutting sugar. You got to focus on fixing the quality of your carbs. Fasting is another one I see women focusing on. Maybe I should be fasting or time restricted eating. The only reason this works is because for a lot of women, it takes the food noise away when they give themselves rules of like, I'm not eating between these hours. And it makes it easier for them to control their calories. However, a lot of times, if women aren't timing their workouts appropriately, or it's not feeling intuitive and they're getting hungry and they're avoiding those things, it can backfire. And another one that people focus on is supplements. These are the small marbles. They're focusing on things like, like what supplements they should be taking to balance their hormones, and even creatine. I'm going to be honest, creatine is a great supplement, but all people keep telling you, oh yeah, creatine, the most researched supplement in the world, and yada, yada, yada. It's like, okay, that's great, but it's still a small marble. Like, it's a small piece of the puzzle. Am I telling you not to take it? No. But I'm just saying, don't focus on the things that aren't going to make that big of a difference in what your overall goals are. You want to have control back over your body composition again. You want to lose the excess body fat. You want to feel good in the gym. All right. The big marbles, these are the dollars. Those were the pennies. Here are the dollars you're missing. And I already said this, and I'm going to go back to it. Not knowing your numbers. Ladies, you have got to know your numbers. And I'm not talking about your macro numbers, like not your, I've got to hit 185 grams of carbs. No, like, yes, those are important, but ranges are more important. You have to know what your body is responding to. For instance, I know my numbers. I know I feel my best when I get between 8 and 9 hours of sleep a night, when I eat between 32 and 3,500 calories a day, when I do about an hour of cardio, moderate intensity, and about 90 minutes to 2 hours of I like my lifting and then my CrossFit and then maybe some accessory, my body responds really well to that. And I take a break every 4 to 6 weeks. I know that my HRV, when it's over 100, I'm feeling really good. When it's under that, my anxiety is a little bit higher. Things feel a little bit more stressful. I feel a little bit more overwhelmed. I know that when I work more than 12 hours in a day, my body can't handle it, but I can handle 12 hours in a day. Mm-hmm. I know that I know my numbers. I know what my body, I know how many meals I need to eat a day to feel good. I know what my body needs. I'm very in touch with that. I know how much I weigh. I know weight fluctuations. I know my numbers, and I know when things aren't going well, how to tweak them. You got to know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you're guessing. You're constantly shooting at a dartboard blind. So you got to know your numbers. You got to stop half-assing the numbers game. Now, do I obsessively track all of that stuff? No. Technology is a wonderful thing. I can step on the scale and it records it to my phone for me. I can track my food and it tells me how much I'm eating. I wear a Whoop band. It gives me a pretty good idea of my recovery, my HRV, my resting heart rate, all that stuff. I don't have to track it. I don't have to, and I don't look at it every single day. More importantly, I pay attention to what's going on here. Today, I feel pretty darn good. I do. I'm having some anxiety, but it's mostly because, like I said, I'm at that weird part of the year where I'm like, I kind of am. I'm going to take it a little easier this next 2 weeks. And I'm going to get ready for January to go full force into the 2026 CrossFit season. Okay. You got to know your numbers though, right? So numbers that I wrote down, things like your total intake, how much protein you should be getting in, again, how much sleep your body is getting and what feels good on a good, like when, and knowing that it's not about, okay, I'm not telling you that you have to go change your life. And all of a sudden you're like, sorry guys, it's 7 p.m. I got to do my nighttime routine so I can go to bed. It's okay. That allows you to know what days you should be pushing harder in the gym and maybe pulling back. If you know that you don't do well after 5 hours of sleep, going to the gym in the morning and, trying to PR a workout is probably not the right thing. All right. Long-term consistency is the game. I have data that I can track for years, and it's really cool watching the trends. The cool thing is I started wearing a Whoop band right around when I turned 20 or 35. So it's really cool for me to be able to see trends and things in like my VO2 max, my resting heart rate, my HRV, all of that kinds of stuff, my scale data, all of it. I have so much, I have food data, have it all. It's great. So you cannot biohack your way out of poor fundamentals. I wrote that down because you've truly got to know what's going on and you've got to be able to watch the inputs. And we should be looking at gauging based off of our base, not what trends are going around. All right. So hopefully some of this stuff is resonating with you guys. I see some people still watching. So if anything is popping up, please let me know. All right. So next one. And this is an important one. I actually feel like I need to skip this one and go to the next one and come back to this one. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to skip that one and I'm going to end on that one. I've changed my mind in my order of notes. This is a big one. Trying to use the same strategy that worked 10 years ago. I get this all of the time. I did this before this, and then I had 2 kids, and now I tried to go back to that. It's just not working. I don't have the same motivation. I can't do the food. It's just things are different. Well, you are different. All right. I am very different than I was 10 years ago. You are very different than you were 10 years ago. Your recovery capacity is different. Okay. You can't be in the gym for 4 hours. Maybe you don't have that kind of lifestyle anymore. You don't have that time. Maybe your stress tolerance is different because you have more stress. It's actually that your stress tolerance has changed. It's that you're just trying to juggle more things. Your hormonal landscape is different. Your body composition is different. So many things, and muscle matters more now than ever. Whereas in your 20s, maybe it was a little bit easier for you to get away. Even in your 30s, if you're in your 40s and your 50s, maybe you felt like when you were my age, you're like, I was crushing it then. Your body didn't stop working. It's just the strategy that you're using no longer is matching your current body. And we've got to stop living in the past and move forward in the future. In fact, I still struggle with this. I struggle with this all the time in CrossFit. In fact, yesterday, I literally was crying my way through my skill work because I was struggling with a movement that I used to be really, really, really good at. And I have now mentally basically fucked myself in the head, for lack of better terms, because every time it comes up, I'm like, oh, is this going to be a good day or a bad day? And they just don't feel like they're getting any easier. And it's very frustrating. And I keep telling myself, just do more, just do more, just do more. And guess what? It's not helping. So I'm taking some steps back on that movement and I'm going to rebuild them. So you likely are in the same place where you don't need to try and be more disciplined and try and do the same thing that you were then. You need to just update the rules. You got to update the standards. That's all you have to do. You have to say, here's base and here's where I want to go. And that is why I saved the one that I wanted to talk about for last, which is the most important one. How do we actually create a calorie deficit as we are aging? And I'm using the number 35 because I feel like that's when things start to get a little bit wonky. Even if you are over 35, maybe you're like having that, I can lose weight, I can't maintain it, I can kind of dial things in, but I can't figure out how to stay consistent long enough. That's all stuff that you're dealing with, all right? So here's the deal. The only lever you've ever pulled is restriction. You've either went on a clean eating plan, paleo, Whole30, whatever, fasting, carnivore, keto, calories, and you've only ever cut calories. You've only ever cut things down and never actually done any kind of an assessment to see like, okay, where are we at with like muscle mass, with like non-exercise activity, recovery, training quality, food quality, all of that stuff to see where maybe we can just optimize things without having to eat less. In fact, I believe that if you didn't even pull back calories too much and you just ate at maintenance long enough, optimized, you would lose body fat without even having to try. I truly think that. However, most people are not that patient because it would happen very slowly. I think that your body would change as a side effect. I know that it would. It would just naturally start to balance out. Your body fat percentage would start to go down. But when you're only doing let's pull the cut calories, let's pull the restrictive diet train, or let's get into the new year and really go all in, you're actually losing muscle. You're focusing so much on, oh, I just lost 5 pounds in 2 weeks. This is great. Well, most of it's water and muscle. Like you don't, not that you're losing muscle that fast, but it's glycogen. So it's not muscle mass, it's glycogen. So it's water from your muscles. And then if you're losing weight too quickly, yeah, you are losing muscle mass. Metabolic adaptation happens. So suddenly all of a sudden you're not able to lose weight, or it's all of a sudden you're gaining weight and you look softer, even though the scale is going down. You're like, the scale is changing, but my body doesn't look any different. You're losing too much too quickly and you're focusing on the wrong things. You're not working with your body. You're not changing your body composition. You're focusing on the damn scale. You're focusing so much on the scale changes and you're not focusing on what you really want is, I'm tired of the food noise. I'm tired of like feeling like crap in my workouts. I'm tired of not seeing the body composition changes. I'm tired of feeling out of control of my body. And you got to stop looking at the scale as the measure of if things are working. All right. So when you are over 35, it is no longer about just, slashing calories and doing more cardio. It is truly about optimizing, not depriving. And if you are approaching it in the way of deprivation, it's why you are constantly stuck. A deficit that costs you muscle is not progress. It is the worst thing you can do for your body as you're aging, not just for your body composition goals and aesthetics, for your health. Because guess what? The less muscle, the less insulin sensitivity, the more prone you are to other metabolic issues, the more prone you are to other issues with not having enough muscle loss, like, injuries and tendons and ligaments and bones and fractures, and all of that stuff. So you have to be approaching your nutrition, not just from deprivation. So that is what I got today. So if you are a female CrossFitter and you are over 35 and you're like, man, I am feeling stressed out, trying to figure out what to do. And maybe you are in a place where you're listening to this and you're like, now is not the time to be locking in because guess what? Like I said, it's the 16th. We are going into the Christmas season. Well, we are in the Christmas season. We are going into like the final week of the Christmas season where it's like, chill, relax. But guess what? It's a great time to soak in some stuff to reinvent things in 2026. So if you're hearing all of this and you want a different approach, I'm going to put some links in my show notes for you guys to reach out to me. You can set up a nutrition strategy call. We can definitely chat about you, where you're at, what you're looking for, because my main goal is that you guys know how to fuel yourself to look and feel your best. I just turned 40 this year. And one of the things that I am and why I'm taking this time is that I feel like I'm in a place where, just full transparency, where I could at one moment self-destruct and totally just ruin the next 5 years of my life, because mentally I have felt like quitting myself in a lot of ways. And I feel like I'm going to start crying right now. Why? Because I want to cry. I do in a lot of ways feel like I want to quit myself. But then there's the other piece of me that's like, okay, now is the opportunity for you to show up for yourself and show yourself that you can be fitter if you let go of some of the things that you are holding on to that are holding you back. And it's a very hard place to be in. But anyways, that was my little personal talk to you guys. But if you want to talk more about you specifically, definitely reach out to me. This is a no pressure invitation for you to just connect with me. I am a real person. I get this all the time. Are you a real person? Am I actually going to talk to you? Yes, you're going to talk to me on the phone. I don't do a lot of Zooms, although I do have a Zoom with my clients today. But if that's you, reach out to me. We'd love to hear from you. I'm just going to pop over to see if there's any questions or anything like that. I don't see any questions here. Going over to my Instagram. Nope, but I do see Miss Holly on. All right, guys. Well, if that is all, I'm going to hop off for the day. I will have an episode next week. We are going into the week of Christmas. I haven't decided if I'm going to do one the following week. I probably will. I love doing these. But if you guys want to chat, feel free to reach out to me. Until the next episode, I will see you all later.